everybody, this is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I have a layout that I made using the November My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. The November kit featured some gorgeous papers and embellishments from the Prima Candy Cane Lane collection, which was designed by Frank Garcia. I'm starting off with a mixed media background. I have a thick piece of white cardstock that I coated with white gesso, and I'm using a number of sprays on the background. I'm using some Lindy's Starburst sprays. The colors are Alpine Ice Rose, Wild Honeysuckle Coral, and Saltwater Taffy. They're all different shades of pink, which I think is perfect for this collection because although it has a lot of the traditional Christmas colors like green and red, it also has some pink and some light blue as well. One of my favorite techniques is the packaging technique. I squish the color down and I dry it in between applications, and that way the layers will build upon each other and the color will get richer and deeper with each layer. If I don't dry the colors, they'll mix together, and I would prefer to have that building up of layers of color. There are some horizontal lines drawn with a pencil on both sides of the layout, and the reason for those is that I plan to put strips of paper down either side of the layout, and that just lets me know where those papers are going to go. I splattered the large area of color with the different colors of sprays. I also sprinkled some water on top. If you have watched my videos before, you may know that I love to do this on mixed media backgrounds because it just creates a super cool effect that I don't know any other way to achieve. So I'll sprinkle the water, roll a piece of paper towel over the top, and then that lifts up some of the color, and it just makes the coolest effect, and I never get tired of doing it. So I do put the water droplets on pretty much every layout. And now I am adding a little bit of a darker color red. This one is a Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist, and the color is Red Tulip. Because it's a Christmas layout and because there's some red in the pattern papers, I thought I would add just a few splatters of red over the pink. I wasn't sure if I wanted to add touches of black to a Christmas layout, but I ended up liking the stamping. I'm using a Prima stamp that we got in a previous My Creative Scrapbook kit, and I'm using some Stays-On ink in jet black, and I am stamping, mainly concentrating the stamping on the areas of color. I went a little off on the stamping on the bottom, but I generally like to keep the stamping to where I have added the sprays in the background. Unfortunately, and you'll see in a moment, the video becomes absolutely blurry in the middle of me filming. I'm not sure what caused that. So what I did was I added some pattern paper on either side of the layout, but first I put some red cardstock underneath that so there would be two layers, and I like the idea of having the dark red cardstock to separate the pattern paper from the background. I have two photos that I mounted on some white cardstock. I backed the photos with foam to pop them up a little bit, and then I attached them down to the layout. I wanted to add some of these gorgeous flowers to my layout, and it took me a little bit of time to figure out exactly how I wanted to arrange them. I thought at first I would put a line of flowers underneath the two photos, and I found that a little hard to arrange the way I wanted to, so I ended up changing that in a little while. I decided that I would make that bottom cluster a little smaller and move it over to the left-hand side of the layout. I added a chipboard Christmas tree into that cluster. Now I'm adding some photo corners to both of the photos. I'm using a strip of the Prima paper and my EK Success Scalloped photo corner punch, which I love to use, and I love adding photo corners to my layouts. Sometimes I don't use them, but most of the time I like to add this little finishing touch to my photos. I was happy with where the flowers were, so I decided to use some heavy gel medium and attach those down. The gel medium is my favorite adhesive to use with those dimensional flowers that we get in the limited edition kit. It holds them steady, but the good thing is there's a little bit of time if you want to move something around. the gel medium doesn't dry super fast. So I like that. It gives me a few minutes to figure out exactly how I want everything positioned. The photo corners didn't stand out enough for me, so I took them off of the photos. I hadn't attached them down yet, and I'm using some Distress Oxide in pine needles and a dauber, and I'm adding some color, and I think that this will make them stand out a little bit before I felt like they just matched in with everything else on the layout. And you can see that I'm inking my fingers as much as I'm inking those photo corners. That does tend to happen with these little pieces when I'm inking them. I inked each of the photo corners twice so that the color would be a little bit darker. And then I used some ATG adhesive and I attached each of the photo corners down to the photos. The photos on this layout were taken of my two daughters on Christmas Eve a couple of years ago. Christmas Eve is one of my favorite days of the year, and I absolutely love taking pictures on Christmas Eve. I wanted to add some pine branches to the flower clusters, so I die cut out a whole bunch of branches. I ink them green using some Ranger Archival ink in Fern Green, and I like to do that just in case the embossing powder doesn't fully cover the die cuts, and that way they'll still be green. I use a number of different dyes. There are some really small pine branches, like the one all the way to the right now. I'm not sure what the manufacturer of that dye is, but I used memory box dyes for most of these. I used two sets. One's called Pine Needle Trio, and the other one is called Pointy Pine Needle Sprigs. I will put the information in the description box. So I am using a Versamark pad that is covered in glitter and embossing powders. It really got a little funky looking, but it still works. And then I used some Moxy embossing powder. The color is metallic evergreen, and I thought this was the perfect color to go with the layout. I always emboss 2 times. It does take a little bit more time, but I feel that the embossing looks so much better and so much more dimensional when I put 2 layers of embossing powder on die cuts. Now I'm tucking the pine branches into the flower clusters, and I really love this part of the layout. I feel like this is when the layout really starts to come together, and even though it's not finished, I can start picturing how it's going to look when it's finished. I just can't believe how fast the time is going. I can't believe that it's almost Thanksgiving, and I'm starting to think about Christmas presents. One of my friends told me she was done with all of her Christmas shopping, and it made me think I had better get started soon. We still have to take down a few of our Halloween decorations, but I just feel that the holiday season arrives faster and faster every year. For the most part, I am using the branches whole, but in a couple of cases I cut them a little bit shorter. And then I used some gel glue and I glued the pine branches down to the layout. And I always like to mention that I just put a little bit of glue at the base of the pine branches because I don't like them when they're glued flat down to the page. I like it when they lift a little bit up off the page and you could see a little bit of a shadow and they don't look so flat. I added a chipboard bow to the flower cluster on the bottom of the layout. And then I started adding some pearls to each of the flowers. I have some very tiny blue pearls that match this blue of the flower very well. And then I also have some small red pearls, and I thought that these would be perfect for gluing down to the petals of the flower. Although I'm using gel glue here, I think it would probably be better to use some glossy accents just because the glossy accents holds pearls and things with a similar surface better than gel glue, but I haven't had any pearls fall off the flowers yet, so this gel glue has worked out so far. There are 2 different sizes of pearls that I'm using. They're both very, very small, but they are different sizes, and I like the way having different sizes makes the pearls look a little bit more interesting. I'm using that pointed tool, and that really helps me to be able to move the pearls around. It is not always easy for me to get these pearls where I want them because they're so tiny. For the red flowers, I use the red pearls. I only used 1 size of red pearl because the red flowers are a little smaller, so I wanted to use the smaller size pearls. I felt that the flower clusters could use a couple more pine branches, so I went back and I made another batch of the embossed pine branches. And I think that this really helps to fill out those clusters. I knew that I could always use these pine branches on other layouts if I didn't use them all on this one. Now I'm adding one of the cardstock ephemera pieces. That's going to be my title. It says Fa La La. I'm also adding a little sentiment at the bottom. It says Merry Little Christmas. And I really love this chipboard reindeer, and I thought the reindeer would look really nice standing on top of the photo that's on the left. I tucked a candy cane die cut behind the Christmas tree, and then I started adding some pearls to the layout. These pearls were made by Pinkfresh Studios. They are matte gold metallic pearls. I thought that they went really well with the touches of gold in this paper collection. These pearls come in a pack with 3 different sizes, so I wanted to use all the different sizes on the layout. I used a medium-sized pearl at the top of that chipboard Christmas tree, and then I used the smallest pearls to decorate it. And I really like the way those really tiny pearls look on the Christmas tree. I thought that looks kind of cute. I used the largest of the pearls on the photo corners, and I think that that helps to draw attention to the photos. I also added some pearls on the Merry Little Christmas banner that's on the bottom of the layout. And then as I was adding those pearls to the banner, I was thinking that it would really look better if it was popped up just a little bit. So I decided that I would add some fun foam to the back of it. I just love the way the sentiments look when they are popped up on a little bit of foam. So I added a little strip of fun foam, and then I added some adhesive, and I placed it back on the layout just where I had it before. There was a die cut piece that I really liked with the diagonal stripes. I thought that looked cute to the right of the title. And then I found a larger bow in the die cut pieces as well. I added that under the title, and that completes my layout. And here are some close-ups. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, everybody. I say it every time, but I really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch one of my videos. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video. If you would like to check out the My Creative Scrapbook kits for November, you can take a look at their website. The link is in the description box, and you can also purchase a subscription there. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.